with ADHD, we have been over criticized, overly corrected unnecessarily in a lot of cases, to the point where it's can be scary to put ourselves out there because people might criticize us. And then the hard part about that is we may have parts of us that we haven't dealt with yet who hold those early harmful or painful experiences, traumatic experiences, if you will, around being corrected or shamed or criticized. So that when we're criticized now, those parts get triggered and we get emotionally dysregulated and can't handle it and maybe even shut down. Hi, I'm Jen Barnes, and you're about to experience how to ditch the old ways of doing things, embrace your neurodivergence, learn tips and tricks to function optimally, and love yourself, neurodivergence and all. Welcome to the Self Loved Woman podcast. Hey, it's Jen. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Today, I want to talk about some observations I've had around women entrepreneurs, ADHD women entrepreneurs, probably even entrepreneurs who don't have ADHD. I mean, this applies to for sure. And I want to share this, having walked this path myself, having been in these shoes. So know that this is not coming from a place of judgment or any kind of harshness. But I really want to point out some of the challenges I see getting in the way of ADHD women entrepreneurs actually doing what they want with their business. So let's dig in. So, one of the things I see is fear around just going for it and just being like, yeah, I'm all in on this business and I'm going to do it and I'm going to put myself out there. And I see a lot of fear around people putting themselves out there. And I get it, right? Like, and so this is a real problem because if it's your business, you're the brand. So that means you're putting yourself out there and that means that there's gonna be people who are like, "Wow, I really don't like you." Right? And some of those people are very vocal about that, or maybe they don't say it that directly, but they disguise it in nasty, hateful comments on social media, things like that. So, what I wanna talk about later is how we overcome some of this, but if you're seeing yourself in that, know that you come by this honestly, right? This is really hard, and in order for your business to really take off, this is stuff we've gotta work through. We've got to help you get past this because otherwise you're always going to be too scared to really put yourself out there. You're always going to be playing small. Right. And yeah, we can come up with all kinds of awesome positive affirmations about like, I'm going to play big, small, no more. Right. Like something like that. But the fact of the matter is, until we do this deeper work around this pattern, we're not going to see any change. So, I want to talk about another thing I see before we get to some of that. Another common challenge I see is people, and I say this with love, but not recognizing that when you build a business or you decide to become an entrepreneur, like you want to work for yourself, the whole job thing is just like not a fit. Sometimes people don't see that they're actually a business owner. So, another pattern I see is women who are like, yeah, I want to work for myself. I really don't want to do this job thing anymore. Or maybe you've been working from home as a mom and caregiver of your loved ones and you're ready to re-enter the workforce and you've decided to do that by working for yourself, whatever it is, right? Well, the thing is that I notice a lot of people, especially women, ADHD women in particular, is that there's not a connection that doing that means you are now a business owner. And, like, I say that with love, right? But sometimes we forget that when we decide to work for ourselves, that we are actually in business and that means some things. Or you might be like, "Oh, no, Jen, I know that. That's why I'm terrified." And those are some other stories to work through, right? But when we own a business, that means our business is a thing that we work on, right? It is not our baby. It is not who we are. It is an entity that we own and operate. And operating a business includes doing things like having intentions for your business, a vision, goals, regular planning to implement those goals. right? Among other, like, all the admin, not to like scare anyone, but like, bookkeeping, you've got to have a tax accountant, like all that kind of stuff, right? And you can hire out for those kind of things for sure. But to recognize that when you are deciding to work for yourself, you're really stepping into a role as business owner. You're like, Jen, why does the distinction matter? It matters because that mindset of I am a business, I am working on my business versus I'm an employee of myself, right? Those two things have very different energies behind them, and they also require different things of you. If you're just an employee working in this business you've started, then you're gonna be doing, like, a lot of admin tasks, things that you could hire an assistant for, a virtual assistant, versus if you are the business owner, if you're the CEO of your business, then the tasks you're going to be doing are, I don't wanna say higher level, it's not like those other tasks aren't good or, like, high level, I mean, my goodness, they all take an enormous amount of skill in whatever area it is, right? But it's a different kind of thing that you'll be doing. Yes, like I said, you'll be doing the visioning, you'll be doing the business planning, the goal setting, and you'll also be doing the things that only you can do, right? So this is an important piece that we want to do, and I think it's scary. I think it's scary for a lot of women to do that. And I can't help but wonder if some of it is like the percentage is really low for how many women actually succeed in their own business, which we're changing that, right? Us ladies are changing that because we're kicking ass. But I think there's that fear, and we've been undervalued as women, but especially as ADHD women our entire lives. So stepping into a big, important role like that seems scary, right? And when I say, CEO of a business, I realize sometimes what comes to mind for me is my actuarial days back when I was, working for a large business. You can still be CEO of your business and have only a couple of part time employees or virtual assistants. But it's a mindset of stepping into, like, oh, yeah, this is my business and figuring out what you need to do for it to kick ass, to thrive, to be successful, right? And to me, success in a business is so that you can support yourself and maybe your family or other loved ones as needed with that money and be able to do things that you enjoy, right? Without having to have debt or like fear that when you retire, you're going to, not be able to really live. So that is another thing I see. The third thing I see, and this one is really common, and to be fair, I did this for a long time. I didn't do it the first time. Well, I did do it with my first business, my private practice, but then I didn't do it when I was out of the gate with this business now, the one where I help ADHD women entrepreneurs. But there was a period of time in there where I was doing it again. And you might be like, okay, Jen, what is it? Sorry, rambling. It's that we duct tape together different freebie options or, low cost options to help us build our business. Right? Because it's like, "Oh, yeah, I can figure this out myself, and I can just do it, and I don't need anyone to tell me how," and that's totally an option. If you're like, "Jen, that's all I need. I'm just here for the freebie," no judgment. And what I will tell you is that didn't work for me, and I haven't seen it work for other people. And there's 2 reasons why. One is that it's hard to piece all that together. We have a hard enough time with ADHD, like organizing our stuff. So now we're like, oh, yeah, I'm going to take a bunch of information from different people who have something to say about how to build my business. I'm going to synthesize it. And then I'm going to make it work for me in a very specific way. Maybe your brain, you're like, oh, I love doing that. That's like my best skill. And hey, I got to say more power to you, but that is not something I'm capable of doing, right? I know me, and I know that it helps me if I am doing something that is actively helping me, like a program or whatever. And I'm not saying, yes, I have a program. I'm not saying it has to be mine, but it's important that you recognize doing a business, if you've never done one before, it's important that you have help and guidance. And, back in the day when I started my first private practice, the one that didn't go very well, my second one is thriving. But the first one, I mean, back then they didn't have internet courses or anything. I went to the library and got some books. I bought a book on building an LLC, all that kind of stuff, right? Because you had to do everything yourself back then. Now there's amazing programs online that you can do that kind of shortcut all that. So you don't have to read a million books to help yourself. And you don't have to learn how to do everything for yourself, right? Like, you don't have to learn how to be a good copywriter or how to do well with graphics. I'm not great with graphics. Mine kind of look bland. So I hire out for that because then they look more professional and polished. You can always tell if I've done a graphic because it's like kind of plain because I don't know how to make them shiny. I'm not a very shiny person. I'm much more down to earth and functioning, or well, I'm functioning, but more about functionality and practicality than I am about the gloss. But certainly with marketing, the gloss is helpful because it's what gets people to pay attention, right? It's what gets them to stop the scroll. And it also makes you look like you're not rinky dink. So anyway, but the other thing that I said, there were two things that I see getting in the way of people letting go of duct taping together the freebies. And what that is having a hard time investing in themselves. A lot of times these programs can be expensive. And when you think about everything you get, it's actually not that expensive because if you think about the cost of not getting the help, the mistakes you'll make. I mean, crap, before I got further help, I dumped, I don't know, several $1,000s into Facebook marketing because I was like, I can figure this out. No, no, that was not true, right? I was like, I can listen to all these different podcasts and do these low cost investments or freebies and figure it out, and it's just not true, right? It ends up costing you more, and even if it doesn't cost you more out of your pocket, it ends up costing you more in time spent not doing this, time spent maybe still working at a job while you're trying to create your business, or which is certainly in my mind sanity, right? Because you're trying to do both and it's like, oh my gosh, this is tiring. So, those are the 3 patterns I see lately getting in the way of ADHD women entrepreneurs really going for it. And I talk about this a lot, but so much of what is beneath these patterns is stories that we tell ourselves and big, heavy emotions. And where all of that comes from is something deeper. It's why in my program and even in this 3-day live that's coming up, we're gonna do some of that deeper work. I'm gonna share little bits of it. I mean, obviously in a 3-day workshop with like hopefully hundreds of people, I'm not gonna be able to work with people, one-on-one, but just to let you experience some of that deeper work and how you can do this for yourself. Because if we don't work with those parts of us inside who are scared, who feel like we're not good enough, who feel like we're not worthy of our own investment of money, time, and energy, who feel like if our business fails, that means we're a failure. Like all those things, right? I could list the stories for days. But if we don't deal with those, then we're never going to get our business to take off. Because when we show up in our business, whether it's our podcast or on social media or even working with clients, if we're able to bring them in, we show up from a place of lack, from a place of not good enough. And then when we do that, people don't take us seriously. And it's not because we don't have value. They just don't see our value because we don't see it in ourselves. So I am really excited to share that this 3-day live is coming up at the end of December. So it's 3 days, 2 hours a day. It could go over, I'm not going to lie. We'll just see how it goes, right? If people have questions and stuff. Starting December 28th, then we'll meet on the 2nd and the 4th as well to help you overcome these, or at least learn how to overcome these invisible obstacles holding you back, right? So if you're someone noticing, like, gosh, I'm really having a hard time picturing myself as a business owner, what's that about? Right. And between now and the 3-day live, you might even sit down with a journal and write that out. Like, what's that about for me that I have a hard time seeing myself as a business owner, or I have a hard time investing in myself in a program to help myself do this? You know, what's it about that I'm scared to really go for it? And to just let yourself write about it, or you could sit with it in meditation, like pose those questions. I like writing because when you put pen to paper, it does something more than just thinking about it. Anyway, those are some things for you to start in the meantime. And make sure that you register for this 3-day live event that's coming up. I'm so excited about it. I can hardly stand it. You've heard me talk about it before. So I look forward to seeing you then. And if you're not following or sharing yet for this podcast, please follow and share. And I'd love for you to comment anything that resonated with you today. Or even if you're like, yeah, Jen, I didn't like this. That would be great too, because that does a couple things. One, it helps me like hear what people are struggling with or what they don't like. Not because I'm going to cater to what people don't like, but I'm going to hear, like, oh, how is this landing? And it can help me continue to improve and offer you even better things that help you more. And it will also help you select out if it's just like, yeah, that's not who I am. Then you'll know, like, oh, Jen is probably not the person for me. All right. So that was kind of a quicker one. Just wanted to pop in and share some of the things I'm seeing, and as we're leaving, I just want to make sure that you're remembering to have compassion for yourself inside of this, because we come by all of this so very honestly. All right, y'all, register for the 3-day and take care.